Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as a citizens collective, we welcome you to another session of Wednesdays for Water. The conversation today is on teaching water to the tender minds. Before we start the conversation, a brief about Wednesdays for Water. The objective of Wednesdays for Water is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex intertwined issues associated with water and the possible solutions they are working on and seeking. It has expanded since then to have more activities like Friday Waters and Monday Munching with Women for Water, besides organizing on-site water workshops, water walks and talks, seminars, special courses and conference panels, and publications to continue the water conversation in various possible ways. In here at W4W, we strongly believe that water conversations are a crucial way towards water conservation. Do visit our website www.w4w.in. My name is Mansi Bal Bhargav and I'm going to be the host from W4W today. And since we are talking about a very interesting as well as important topic, and this is going to be first time when we are going to touch this aspect of teaching water to the tender minds. And it's important for all of us to understand that, of my age at least, that we were not taught about water beyond H2O and the water cycle or the whole life cycle. So if it is an essence of life and if it is important to understand its importance, and especially how and when it should be taught to this young age, what is the right pedagogy to teach? And it's not that we are talking about something which has to be done. It is now already being taken as a challenge, or I will say as a passion, as career by many people. And of that, we have right now 3 people here to present and discuss about this important aspect. We have Soumi Duttagupta and Dr. Sanskriti Menon as speakers, and Ananya Rao will be our discussant for the session today. We'll have a sequence of presentations. I'm going to invite Soumi to first do the presentation, but before that, a brief introduction of hers, and rest of it, I'm going to put it in the chat box. Soumi Duttagupta is the director of Regen Ed Foundation and leads the Regenesys, an educational venture focused on cultivating self-awareness, community engagement, and environmental consciousness amongst K-12 and university students. Through flagship programs such as Wordplay, The Change Maker, and Nature, the Mentor, she has worked with nearly 1,000 plus students and educators across several cities and countries and education boards. With over 17 years of experience in clinical research and 7+ years in educational entrepreneur, she draws her interdisciplinarity. And I'm quite interesting to see Tagore's philosophy of integrating nature, science, and art. A lot more about Soumi, but I think I should not take time, and I'm going to put her bio in the chat box and meanwhile invite Soumi to make her presentation. And please keep in mind, you have less than 15 minutes to make your point here. Over to you, Soumi, and thank you so much for being here and also agreeing to do this interesting talk for us. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mansi, for inviting me in this for this discussion. So I'll start without wasting much time here. Yeah. So since today's topic is teaching water to the tender minds, so basically making them water aware and water wise. Why we all know to make them eco-conscious and develop their awareness and engage with their environment. But what is important is through this, they learn to understand the relationship that they share with the nature around, which is very important. So they from the very, if it is from the very foundational years, they understand that they are a part of the nature, they are not a part nature. So that makes a lot of difference when it comes to the stewardship consciousness. What has to be taught is, of course, responsible water consumption and water conservation. How here, because we are dealing with children, it is very important that a conscious backbone should be the developmental stage of the child or the children, because they are at the developmental age when they are developing not only physically, but emotionally as well as spiritually. When I say spiritually, I talk about the consciousness of the child. So it is very important we keep that in mind when we are designing our program or curriculum or teaching resources. The teaching pedagogy or the process for any eco related topic, especially here in case we are talking about water, has to have this three tools. One is eco-pedagogy, which integrates the ecological principle and environmental consciousness in the learning process. So, whenever we are, whatever we are teaching, if it is taught with ecological context, then it becomes, then they also learn to understand their place in the nature, in the environment. So it's much like the nested model of the SDG, where environment is the main, it is the main shell. Second is the local or the place-based learning, where they try, where through the teaching resources, technology, tools, we teach them to interact with their immediate water resources. So then the connection is built, because it is very important for us to build that connection. Only then the consciousness, and only then the awareness, only then the responsibility will happen. And systems thinking, I think, is very, very important now, because we are in a world which is marked with volatility, uncertainty. We all know VUCA world, which is very complex, which means nothing is isolated. Everything is very, very interconnected. Now, if we can make them this as a part of our teaching pedagogy from the foundational years, then they also learn to see through systems lens, which means they understand the interconnectedness of the whole. So they have a more holistic understanding of everything, whatever they're learning. So the learning connects to the real life much better. Now I'll quickly go through this. So what I have done is, since I work with all the age groups, we all educators who work with different age groups, we have a certain principle or consciousness with which we develop. So when we talk about preschoolers and we are trying to integrate or we bring in water education, the first thing that we try to develop at the foundational year for the preschoolers is water sense, which means how they become conscious about the concept of water. They connect with water. And at this stage, it is more about emotional connection, personifying water as a living entity, touching, because at this stage, tactile experience is very, very important. Emotional experience is very important. So it becomes very important to develop that sense, that water sense. Methodology, I'm sure, we all know that at this stage, it is storytelling, song, rhythm, movement, because, creative movement is a very, very important aspect, just as storytelling, rhythm, and play, of course. So the whole purpose is to make water a friend, basically, for them. So, so here, if you see, here we are doing a workshop where water is bundi, and evaporation, condensation, everything is happening with bundi going up, 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 and feeling lighter. So if you can read, you will see one of the children has written, she feels that sun is the best friend of bundi, because he's taking him up in the sky so that she can see the whole world from above. So then what happens is they start loving water as their friend. And hence what happens is, of course, these are the different ways to engage with them. But what
Water we love you. Water we save you. Water we will not waste you. We love you so much.
So this is what happens again. They pledge that they are not going to keep the water open, tap open. So I think these are the little things which we inculcate, and they know that water is a precious friend. And as I said, that we need creative movement as a part of the. So this particular video shows that. But another thing which is very important is, when we are dealing with this age group, it is also very important to understand, as I said, their consciousness. Now, what is water to them is like, you will hear from her. So I think I'll just.
If water disappears from the planet, the first thing that's going to happen is that people will get thirsty a lot, and animals of the tree. And this is the sapling.
Oh wow! And which is a thirsty tree?
And this one, because it's sad. And this is not the thirsty tree.
So they learn to understand the relationship between plant, water, themselves. So the whole interconnectedness and the relationship comes into their consciousness. And so in this workshop, I had gone a little further, and I tried to also talk to them about groundwater.
There's a lot of
So
water to
you
drink.
can see that after this.
This has not.
Okay. You are going through the rocks. You're going through the rocks and the crevices of the ground.
Golden handed. We have lots of water. We have groundwater. Can you see Bundi? Bundi is gone inside the ground.
So, so this is about the preschoolers. And when we come to elementary, so for the preschooler, it was more about developing that water sense. And in elementary, it is giving them a structural knowledge, understanding water in their daily life, the use of water in their daily life, water as a resource, the basic science, the state of water, and as a resource, and also water as a habitat. That's very important. Now, as I said, that in this case, it is very important to, in eco-pedagogy specifically, I think we also stress or emphasize on bringing various disciplines together, the science, the literature, and the arts, the drawing, everything all together. And then what happens is, if you make them understand the facts, which is science, and then weave in feelings to it, that then what happens is this kind of storybooks, they write stories. And this is one of the story. I won't get into the full video. So here, one of the child, who is a grade 3 child, he's written what happens when the habitat or the home gets polluted. So Oli is a otter who has been traveling to various seas, who can't find a home which is not polluted, where she can stay. Now this was very also connected. She had written this, and it was circulated among our wordplay group, and it was picked up by a nursery prep, I think, child, and she narrated it in her school. So that is also another way of making them connect, and also letting them be the voice of preserving water, conserving water, and also not polluting it. Another thing which I also use a lot, and I think which is very good for integrating when we are trying to bring the concept of water or the consciousness of water in this age group, when we can also bring the consciousness of the tribal or the indigenous wisdom into their curricula or into their teaching process, they also understand how water is viewed among their tribal communities. So that also gives them a very different kind of a perspective. So this is one way. And when we come to middle school, I think here at this stage, they are more, they are more equipped to understand the interconnectedness with the various disciplines like social studies, science, and literature. And what is very important at this stage is also to bring about project-based learning, where they also interact with the larger community, and they explore, what is it that is causing, what is their daily habits, what impact it has on a larger ecosystem, on the larger community life. So those things can be brought in by various kinds of programs. So this is one program which I had done, which is called Somewhere, where again the concept map of water was plotted through these various subjects. Now, another thing, as I was telling, it is very important to for them to at this stage they can quantify. And as I was telling that, it is very important to bring in various disciplines. So eco maths is also another. When we bring in mathematics also into it, they kind of quantify. They can make, because numbers give them a very tangible understanding. So in one of these project-based program, the children had actually done water audits at home, in the society. Then they did a survey. So the whole consciousness of how much water we are wasting or how much water we are overusing, that was so much in them. I think that was, for me also, it was a very aha moment to make them feel that, that. So they became much more conscious. And as a result, I mean, it is not documented, but one of the child, because in Gurgaon, you would know that the rain dance during Holi, the rain dance is such like sprinklers, water is sprayed, and so much wastage of water. One of these students, he took it up, and he tried to convince not to, to stop it, which he couldn't, but at least he could convince some of his friends to do that. I think that also leads to those kind of consciousness. And this is just, I'll end with this. This is another project which I had done with the underprivileged. So children, is the sound audible?
No, right now, but try again.
Change maker?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this was a project which was again on social impact program, and I will just show you so here the children had zeroed in on a an environmental or social challenge they want to work with. And here I just wanted to show you the kind of things that they came up in terms of water. And also, I think middle school is also an age or a span where we, have the space to make them feel empowered, that they can bring in change if they want to. And even at a minuscule level, if they do, that has a very huge impact. So I'll just show you that bit. Sorry. Yeah, it will come after this. Yeah, because I have, I've.
Now, everybody can't be a change maker because it takes to be create. It takes a different mindset.
Every one of you can be a change maker.
Problem is, and why should people waste so many quantity of water? As people know, water is precious in our life.
मैम होता है जब हम लोग खाना बना के बर्तन को धोने जाते हैं, तब हम लोग बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं जो मैम पूरे नल को खोल के ही छोड़ देते हैं और पानी वो गिरते ही रहता है, उसको बंद नहीं करते जब तक पूरा काम होता है.
Yeah. So another way, this is the last slide. Another way of building empathy in them is eco-literature, and then giving them a space to illustrate their interpretation. So that also has kind of build consciousness, or educate them on not only in terms of what is happening in like water. I think in terms of the geopolitical aspect, and on a larger context also, which I could see during these illustrations it happened. So yeah, so I think this is about it, because we are talking about children from preschool to middle school. And yeah, so I want to end with this one, this shlok, which says that a disciple receives 1/4 from the teacher, 1/4 through his own intelligence, and 1/4 through his classmates or peers, and the remaining quarter through his experience. So which is very, very important now, I think, is to understand that the collaborative learning or experiential learning and a space for reflective learning, especially when it comes to building eco-consciousness, it's very, very important. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soumi. Thank you so much for taking us through different age groups. I was already wishing that I wish I was your student at that age, and I would have been really a different person, to be honest. But let's move on and take on the other aspect of educating the tender minds. And for that, we have Dr. Sanskriti Menon to do the honor. Sanskriti Menon is a senior program director at Center for Environment Education, CEE, very renowned institute of national repute and international repute, established as Center for Excellence by the MOEF. She's based out of Pune and heads the Central Regional Cell of CEE. Sanskriti has been involved in formal and informal education of environment, including schools and colleges. She was appointed as the convener of Board of Studies for Environmental Education by the Maharashtra Secondary and Senior Secondary Board for previous cycle of curriculum and textbook development. With the support of UNICEF Maharashtra office, CEE has developed climate education programs for teachers, reaching about 10,000 teachers, and a youth water stewardship program with Aquadam, and why ways to reach around 3,000 colleges in Maharashtra, and so on and so forth. She's been a dear friend with me for quite a long time, but it is only now I could get hold of it, because we really realize that we are missing something in our water conversation program. Despite the fact that we are reaching towards 300 sessions, I'm a bit embarrassed to say that we are now touching the tender minds, almost closer to 300 sessions. But I promise to all of you that we are going to talk more about water education, because Terry School of Advanced Studies is running this series, and they are serious about running this series as water education program. Sanskriti, you heard Soumi, and I leave the floor for you. Over to you. Thank you so much for taking out time. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mansi, and it was really nice to hear Saumi's work. And I think what I'm going to say is that this is a deep dive into, the kind of activities that can be done about water with different age groups, especially young children. I just want to throw in some, information or insights into scaling this kind of work, because it's excellent that the work like Soumi that has happened with the way she's been doing it. A challenge is also that how do we scale it for a country like India? So I just want to share some of maybe like a basic list of concepts that children ought to know, for water literacy. I think Soumya did mention many of those, and just sort of proposing a listing, and maybe this Mansi could be thought of as like a starter list, which maybe through the Wednesdays for Water Foundation we should continue to elaborate or take inputs from different educators as we go along. And it's great that W4W has started this learning related series as well. The second thing is that, what should teachers, what should children know, what should be in the textbook, what's happening with the textbooks, because we can reach scale through the education system. But then if things are in the textbook, then, what is it that what is the teacher's role? And then further, what is the community's role and what do people like us? And I know that several of my colleagues from CE have also joined. And so it's a bit of the collective sort of work of CEE as well as these colleagues and our partners, etc. Of course, we worked with the NCRT and the SCRTs, as we mentioned. So I'm just very briefly outlining, how to scale water education or water literacy with children. And so let me just share this. And I'll also invite, perhaps after the slides, my colleagues also to chip in with many things I will miss because 5-6 minutes is what I'm going to speak. Soumi did mention many of these that, what are the, it's a very texty slide, but just bear with me. So it's basically that what should children know, considering that, many children will leave school after 8th standard. Many don't go on to higher secondary school and many don't go on further to college also. And we expect that India should have a water literate population. So just proposing here that by 8th standard, what should we know, So it's that basic concepts of where does what are water resources, water in the ecosystem, how much water is available, how is it distributed, etc. How do human beings use water, and what have been the traditions in different cultures and regions, because water is not distributed the same all over the world or all over the country, and even in the same state or even sometimes in the same city. People have different types of access, and what is water rights? How does water come to my home? How does it leave? Certainly the impact of climate change, and that there is uncertainty about climate change impacts. And then how do we do water conservation? How can we manage? What are the principles of sustainable water use, looking at equity and reducing wastage, etc. What is the linkage? Because, we learn about the water cycle, then we think that water will go up, it will come down. So water is not getting destroyed in a sense, like energy is not getting destroyed. So why should we be concerned about, the next year the rain is going to come? But what are we talking about? How does it locally become inadequate, or how does access vary? And then how do we actually, and what is the link with energy and water? So these are things that I think we could think of as a starter list. Certainly some practical skills, because we expect that children will start as they become youth and as they become adults, they will participate in the water users association in their village. They will, plan for watershed management activities. So those skills, of like looking at rain gauge or reading and making maps, or, charts, and understanding these basic skills. Of course, the attitude about, access and water justice, and also feeling responsible. And it was great to see those little videos where children were sharing about their sense of responsibility. And certainly these abilities, these competencies, as we call them, they are called systems thinking, the sustainable development competencies. No? So one thing that all of us environmental educators seek is that not only that, certain content is available, or, that children learn content, but it's really these abilities or these competencies which we call as systems, sustainable development competencies, which are systems thinking and critical thinking. And, different activities are possible, such as role plays, etc. And certainly this project-based learning, where they learn how to collaborate, communicate with each other, work together, etc. Certainly because, often school tends to be very competitive, how much marks you got and how well you do in 10th standard. And even more so, we need to start, or we need to really strengthen how collaboration happens. So this I just offered as a thinking about water literacy sort of a curriculum. And as I said, that to scale it, we need really the education system. No? And sorry, I'm just putting, this is not a text slide, sorry, just a content slide. Why this is very important for us to be tracking is because India is really already a water stressed country. And it's very important, I'm sure all your seminars and webinars and discussions all through have reiterated this, but I thought I'll just remind ourselves as educators not to forget and to bring in the urgency of water resource learning. And another thing, that it's not just water as we see, but also this hidden water. So these are two sort of critical components which we need to bring into water literacy, that there is embedded water, not only water when you open the tap or when you fetch water, etc., but when you consume, there is embedded water. You can quickly try and do this if you want. I'll show you the answers in a next slide, that how much water does producing a pair of jeans take or a kg of potato, which do you think is the most embedded water? You can put your answers in the chat if you like. I think some of the CE colleagues certainly know the answers already, but here are the answers, yeah? So you can see the most amount of embedded water. Anyway, so going forward, I want to say that the good news is that, with the new national education policy and the new textbooks which are being developed, there is, of course, a focus on project-based learning and looking at environmental education. And as it happens that, CE is involved in the textbook development also. And colleagues have, in fact, this is the third standard textbook, and the chapter 7 is on water. I will just stop share and quickly show you what it looks like. The uh, the chapter on water. Here it is. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the standard third textbook, and this is about water. And it has quite a number of things about water being a precious gift. Very simply saying, it goes up and comes down, that there is a rain season, and just these, describing water, and what happened to the rainwater, where does it fall, etc. That it's precious. And there are these little stories and illustrations. Where do you get it from? How do you get it to your home? Many different pictures are there, so that there is the possibility of linking to yours. So it's not only one method of water coming to your home, but different things, different illustrations are there, so you can find. And then what happens when you didn't get water, because one day it happened to Surya and Barkha. Do you know what they did? So just starting to trigger that there may be days that you don't get water. Then ask your grandparents, so what is the history of water use in your own community? What did your grandparents or parents do? How was it stored? And I think Soumi was also talking about the
Yeah.
history of water use. So like this, and then different types of activities you can do to share about your learning. Yeah, so this is absolutely new. It is in this academic year that it is being introduced. So I just wanted to share this to show that some good thing is happening on scaling water literacy. I'll come back to my slides in just a minute. Yeah, the NCERT material is also available online on the NCERT's site itself. Are we able to see full screen?
Yeah.
Yes, now.
Yeah. So what is the teacher's role? Because, good news is that there is some material in the textbooks coming up. Now the teacher's role is to say that, because the textbook is written for the entire country, or with the NCERT and the CBSE, and then state governments through their state curriculum agencies and their textbook bureaus make state versions or state editions of textbooks and curricula. And so then it becomes up to the state committees to try and adapt it to the state requirements, and then very much up to the teacher to make the textbook material local specific and bring in the local context and knowledge and water resources, etc. And again, so the teacher needs to be able to use the textbook material as a hook, as an anchor. Children will read it, do the activities, but also share, what is happening in their actual environment. And then Madhuri and I were just discussing that, with the Har Ghar Jal Yojana, it's great. Okay, water people are going to get. There is hopefully more equity in access to water, and people are able to. And there's certainly a gender perspective of who's fetching water, etc. Equally, with Har Ghar Jal is the need for knowing that water needs to be conserved, and if water is coming into your home through a tap, you also need to learn how to turn it off. And this sometimes is not discussed or not shared, or if water is erratic, then it's very easy to leave it open because water will come sometime and I don't know when it will come, etc. So you just leave it open all the time and it goes. And that's why it's very important that the teacher is alive to these issues and is able to modify her teaching according to what the village or the city or the town or their area actually needs. And certainly because it takes some skill and effort to do things which are not just reading the textbook in the classroom. So she does need to know how to play a game, or construct the 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever she gets. She may be doing multiple classrooms at the same time. That is the reality of schools. So we do expect a lot from teachers to be able to do these activities and project-based learning, etc. We certainly expect them to take, the whole school approach and take these things into the, outside the classroom, outside the school, engage with the community, to be able to. So for the teacher, sometimes there is only one teacher in the school, or there may be many teachers in the school, and then they need to collaborate. And in any case, with all their burden, I guess the most important thing for them to also say is that I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, but we need to find it out together. So this is the teacher's role. It is not an easy role, and that's why it's really important that we are able to, as non-formal educators, just like Soumi has shown and illustrated so beautifully, that non-formal educators in the community, CSR groups, etc., we are able to help schools with this project-based learning and really bring in the local environment for the school, be the larger community that supports the school in helping children learn. And certainly, as I mentioned, that state governments are now starting their curriculum processes and textbook development processes for this round of this cycle. It takes 5 to 10 years for a whole cycle of textbook production to go, and they are in the process just now. So as people interested in water, it's quite important that we reach out to our state governments, to the SCRTs and textbook committees, to provide our knowledge and understanding about water, which can then inform textbook development and also teacher training. And certainly, if we are not in that space, that we will work with the state government, but we can work with one school, 5 schools, 10 schools, a group of schools, helping some teachers that you do know. You can help them with these kind of resources. Another thing, as we were thinking, is that corporate social responsibility groups are quite interested, as are schools, to improve educational outcomes for numeracy and literacy, maths and language. And there is quite a lot of opportunity also to think this through, that, how does learning about water, constructing sentences about water, the vocabulary about water, help you with your language skills? Even things like, okay, measuring how much water is lost with a dripping tap, or what is the area of my roof, so that I can calculate rainwater harvesting potential, looking at charts of rainfall, etc. The numbers, of course, the functional numeracies, which is the basic number gyan, and then a little higher order with the numbers, where we can take them into practical skills of learning about water, with doing these calculations and visualizations and understanding data and trends. So because CSR initiatives are more interested in numeracy and literacy, and it's not very easy for them to just support environmental education. So it's good to do this sort of juxtaposition together with the foundational work as well. And even for non-formal educators, I think the textbook is good, but there are a material like this water classrooms information, which follows a similar sort of a list of concepts, and this has lesson plans available. This was developed through this Living Water Museums, which is also a W4W Foundation partner, I understand, and the ISER Pune and TESF and IHS and CEE. So this material is available. It was tried out with a few schools in Pune. Also, there's this online course which is available for young people, but of course, it's also good for faculty or teachers to, look at both climate action and water management, and link to, there are many activities there, which could be then, if you go through it, try them out yourself, you can do them with the school. These are available online. And this kind of material, which is in the state of Maharashtra, the state government, the Environment Department with UNICEF and CEE and All India Institute had developed this Maji Vasundhara curriculum. And this was done in the COVID times, but now it is being scaled through the Maji Vasundhara program, and this material is available. And there is this, the Environment Service Scheme of the government of Maharashtra, which is looking at Paryarvan Seva Yojana, it's called, which gives points to village panchayats and urban local bodies if they get their schools enrolled in the Environment Service Scheme. And there is this sort of a competition which has been going on, and villages and cities do participate in this. And there's marks for how many schools join. So there are quite a number of volunteers who are interested in this, and we are working with them to learn the environmental activities, try environmental activities, which include water audits and things like that, and then take them to schools. So yeah, so that's what I thought, that I'll share, that there is work happening to scale water literacy. There are some strengths, some good things have been done, but there's a lot, because the number of schools in India, it's like 15 million. Or is it 1.5 million? 15 lakh schools. Yeah, so there's enough and more number of schools which need help. And any non-formal educators who can adopt one school, one teacher, work, help with them as a partner, that might be quite good to do.
Thank you so much, Sanskriti, and giving us a perspective of the overall status of affairs. And I think people like me and Soumi, who have been working as independent educators, and we really struggle to find places where we can teach. And there are platforms. So I feel really good that I could connect you and Soumi together. So now at least two resource person for different age groups, even to induct in your mainstream education, because CE is a very wide network of, environmental education, and it has been there. So it has a legacy, and it matters. So Soumi, you know where to reach after this conversation. And that has been the beauty of W4W Foundation's Water Conversations, that we have managed to connect a lot of people. So we will now move on quickly, because we are running really short of time now. We will quickly move on to the Q&A session. And to do that, we have our citizens representative in the form of discussant, and we have Ananya Rao. Ananya Rao has an academic background in economics, environmental studies, and public policy analysis. She has previously worked on projects related to governance of coastal commons, city-level climate action, international climate policy, and is now curious about the issues around water resources. She's passionate about learning more about water in the context of climate impacts for vulnerable communities. And at present, she's also co-teaching with me at Ahmedabad University. And we are doing water studio there, where Ananya and I am colleagues. So I'm very happy to have her here, and at the same time also trying to learn from how the younger minds teach the even tender minds. So over to you, Ananya. You heard both of the speakers, Soumi and Sanskriti, and I'm keen to see how you are going to raise the discussion, even with all the participants around here, and also what's going on in your head. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mansi ma'am, for that introduction. As Mansi ma'am mentioned, I am an early career educator in the water sector currently. And in that role, I talk to a lot of young minds And thank you both, Dr. Menon and Soumi ma'am, for those amazing presentations. I had a few questions about your work that you've done with young children around water education. The first of those questions is regarding developing a pedagogy around empathy. Teaching water may often involve helping students develop empathy and sensitivity, both as future stewards and present stewards of water resources, but also considering the challenges that other people face regarding access to clean water. So I was wondering, how do you, as educators or working with educators, develop a pedagogy around empathy for school children? Thank you.
Uh, so, should I go ahead? Yeah. So one is definitely, eco literature that I have seen, which has, of course, because reading, storytelling, you are reliving, they are practicing, they're experiencing. So empathy comes as a part of it. And when they're expressing their own through a creative, their own opinion, through their own creative illustrations, that has one thing. Another thing which I have myself personally seen in one of these, if I can just share the screen, I had that picture. Just wanted to share that. So when you do an experiential project-based learning with them, see, this is a picture where I had taken here, one of the groups, they wanted to work on the water contamination that is happening due to landfill. So when they went here, when they, as a part of their project visit, when they went there, they saw, so they are from the underprivileged section, but when they saw there, they saw, we were shocked, including me, that, in that huge mountain of landfills, there were people staying with their toddlers and, drinking water from extremely contaminated source. So that is when they realize that, how privileged they are. So, those kind of community projects, I think, has a very deep impact. Yeah.
Dr. Naman, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, no, certainly this experiencing another reality is certainly a very powerful way of generating empathy or enhancing empathy. I feel that, within the classroom, scenarios, exercises, role plays, these are also methods that teachers can use while describing stories and then helping, asking children to think about their role. And you could have sort of a situation like that brought into the classroom through a role, because a visit is a good thing. Sometimes it may not be possible. So you could try some other techniques like this, which help to put the child in the shoes of another and help them to imagine. Yeah.
Thank you for that. My next question is actually about eco-pedagogy. I came across this term for the first time in our conversations and during your presentation. So I just wanted to know if you can elaborate a little bit about eco-pedagogy in the context of water education for young minds and primary sections.
Actually, it is about integrating the ecological consciousness. When you are designing your curriculum, you are keeping ecological principles in mind. And I think the textbooks which Dr. Menon showed us has actually integrated, has been done with that consciousness of integrating ecology into, when I say ecology, it is actually the interconnectedness, So that is one. Another thing is, the holistic understanding. How do you, so when you're talking about water cycle, it is not just water cycle isolated. What is happening to the water, as she very rightly said, what is happening again next year, what water rain is going to come, but what is happening to the water which is going underground, or what is flowing, or this whole interconnectedness understanding. So a whole curriculum, if it is structured that way, it also it kind of helps a child to understand where they are in the context of the environmental scenario that it is they are in. And I think in this case, it is one more thing, as I said, interdisciplinarity, like, where you bring in the science and the art, language art. So I do a lot of those small haiku, then what is it called? The diamante, with the very young children, where language is developed, but you give them a context of the water. Maybe, I mean, it could be water, it could be, whatever it is. Another thing, I think, another which can be very well done, and especially in the rural areas, or even in the, areas where there are water bodies. If one water can be adopted, water body can be adopted, the whole system, if it is developed on that, based on that ecosystem, pond or whatever, it also kind of helps them to understand. So I think that's yeah, if Dr. Menon, you want to add something to it.
No, only that Madhvi and I probably feel like dinosaurs for we would call it environmental education, but I think this is a sort of a specialist instance of environmental education. Though I think we do think about environmental education as doing those kind of with those outcomes, or with those interconnections in mind, or that empathy in mind. But yeah, it's a good thing to articulate eco-pedagogy in this form. And yeah, colleagues from CEU join. It's a good thing to think about our work also as eco-pedagogy, though we've been just calling it environmental education.
Yeah, it is, I think, because what you showed in that whole system, I mean, at least that portion, I mean, it is definitely eco-pedagogy. And even this, the new integrated, the new textbook also addresses eco-pedagogy. It's just that terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now my next question was actually about the role of educators in using eco-pedagogy as a method in their classrooms effectively. You mentioned the methods you use with students that you work with. What are similar or other ways that educators who do not necessarily have access to a structured pedagogy, what might they use?
So yeah, I think there are sort of processes within the school. Typically, I'm more familiar with Maharashtra school, so there is a sort of a Bal Sansad, for example. There is the SMC. And so a teacher could creatively use the Bal Sansad. I mean, there would be a mantri, a child mantri for water, for sanitation, etc. And the school management committee, which is also the parents, then looking at using this Bal Sansad as their eco committee, for example, and following through with these steps, and of exploring an issue within the school, like through a water audit, taking it outside the school, also exploring it within their families, thinking about it, analyzing this information, and then also sharing it with the rest of the school. So I think these are sort of steps that we do encourage through, say, eco clubs, or there's the National Green Corps, and these are the spaces within the school that are available for bringing these different subject-based learning together. And it's really like that you have maths, you have science, or you have geography, and you have language learning, etc. But the Eco Club and the National Green Corps kind of spaces, the Bal Sansad and the SMC, these are the structures and systems and spaces that bring subject learning together to provide this multidisciplinary or integrative experience to children. But as I said, if educators, non-formal educators can help in that, because really teachers do get very busy.
Yeah.
So,
That's, yeah.
Go ahead, Ananya, because we also want to declare that while Ananya is taking charge of all of us as representative, all the participants here are also encouraged to raise questions and comments and help Ananya because she's representing all of us. So if you have any questions or comments, either you put it in the chat box or you may please raise your digital hand, and we are very happy to hear. And also we would like you to make it more interactive session for now. I will still take 10 more minutes for the session. And while you are thinking, let me pose my questions to our speakers, as well as I'm also having a question for Ananya. Sorry, please bear with me. Yeah. So thank you so much, Ananya, for taking charge of, raising some of the nuances of the session. But my question first goes to Sanskriti on the way actually the formal education is set up. And you make a very clear distinction how the non-formal or informal education setup can really chip in into the mainstream. And my concern, and I'm sure Soumi is going to also share this concern, as independent practitioners, it has not been easy to get into the mainstream education and do the things which we would like to do. And mind you, we have been very creative because we are looking for doing this. You know what I mean? Once it is a formal setup, of course, the teachers are obliged to do it in the mainstream, like we are having in the water education program, water foundation program, which is the only foundation program in the country to run water studio. And thanks to Sara, Saptam, and many more who have crafted this whole course. So my point to you is that how to really, it's more an administrative question. If teachers are already overburdened, and if there are people like me and Soumi who are really trying to teach at all scales, I don't teach so much in detail as Soumi does, but I teach at more youth and high school level. How do we plug in, or how the system plugs in and finds a way that we can contribute, and it's a win-win situation, and the everyday teacher is not overburdened, because we have to also understand that they are also not water literate from their own perspective. And I mean, I have another more philosophical question, which I will hold for Swami. So, do you think that we can really, because C is in such a comfortable position and a good position than many of us independent practitioners, to make it heard to the system that there are people out there who wants to teach, how to mainstream, how to create that avenues for informal, so-called informal teachers, but I will say independent teachers, to hook into the formal system. I know
Yeah.
few of my friends are teaching in the formal school education, but it is not easy. I have walked to many schools and I don't find room. So over to you, Sanskriti.
No, so that's why I was wondering. So one is, of course, approaching at the state government level when we are talking about at the textbook development and curriculum development stage, working with the textbook committees themselves. And these are almost really it's quite a lot of hard work, and it is almost like a voluntary effort because it's not terribly remunerative in that sense, right? So, but if we do have a concern, or we can have external resources to support time costs, etc., but it's a very worthwhile place to contribute, because then you are scaling at the state level. The second thing why I mentioned was that states and schools and CSR foundations, etc., are concerned about literacy and numeracy, and whether by helping a school with remedial classes, or even with running, say, external learning centers, whether it's possible to look at language and math skill development while we want to also bring in water learning. So this is an area which needs development, I must confess that. But I think some amount of creativity is necessary, and I think it's within CE also a more recent discussion that schools need help, especially with their basic learning outcome improvement. And we come in with things which, I mean, of course, there are environmental learning outcomes as well, but they are more concerned with language and math. And it would be the challenge to us to creatively bring in water content into maths and language learning as well. And I think it's quite a worthwhile and a challenge to us as well, but we should take that up. The other is that, of course, working with the panchayat or with the local body could also help, and also maybe working with the teacher directly. Of course, there are rules, because there are instructions that you can't just take anything, and certainly there is merit to that, that anybody who comes and wants to put in things into the school, there are dangers for that. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You think you are doing good work, but there are equally others who might bring in a certain other kind of into that. So of course, schools need to be careful and be very protective of their time, certainly. But then working with the education department and sharing the material that you have, the time requirements, saying that, tagging into the National Green Core, these are ways that are, institutional, and where you could try to plug in as well.
I think okay, I think there was some little bit of glitch of internet connection. Doesn't matter. Or probably it's from my end. Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah.
Can I
So,
pitch in a bit?
Go ahead,
Mansi?
Madhvi. Please, switch
Yeah.
on your video. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to add to what Sanskriti was saying. I think in terms of, say, avenues, one also could look at school networks, and maybe those could be an entry point as well. So
Absolutely.
so just we can think about making a presentation or meeting some of those networks with what we have to offer, and maybe a workshop or a session for some of the principals or teachers might be the way.
That is private school networks.
Private school networks. A lot of them have, like,
The government
the
schools which
town.
have instruction to not just entertain everybody. So yeah.
No.
Hmm.
Yeah,
so
so just very well put, Madhvi. And by the way, you know me for nearly 30 years now. I have been doing that, knocking at every door.
yeah, I know.
And that I want to do this, I wish to do this, but not so much success in terms of getting to, getting the outreach. But I think because this is an administration question, because we know that teachers are also not water literate, and when state wants that imposition of water education in schools and colleges, why not then leave a room that for this course they can invite somebody? Because 90% of the time when I have reached out to schools and colleges, they say that they have no room in terms of time in the curriculum to teach about this kind of, and many teachers even have said nonsense. I mean, it's almost 30 years, but now I don't do those knocking the doors because hands are full. But I'm talking about not far ago, by the way, 3-4 years ago as well. So because through the administrative setup also, if there is no room that they can invite outsiders, and there is no space in their curriculum or in their weekly schedule, they are also very hesitant. Of course, we are many a times we are not even asking for money. It's just that they don't have time. So probably environmental education also takes the back seat. But that brings me to the question which I was really so much wishing to ask Soumi, because only difference I see in the way you are doing and I am doing is just the age group we are handling, So because I start from where we discussed today. I'm sure you are also handling college students also, but where you stopped today, your presentation, my education to water starts from there to even the officials and everyone. So that's where I reside. But of course, we have to be constantly creative in getting to know there. And I think in early career, like you and me, we were more looking at it as a livelihood. And now it is more of a passion than profession. And the fact that this is such an important thing to teach, we have somewhere missed in humanity, somewhere missed in constitution, somewhere missed in education, that water needs to be taught. What do you see, Soumi, in your years of experience? Do you see any change in the society in which the water education is improving, or you see yourself still struggling from the time when you started to find, these are our takers, or I can say these are our clients? The school is our client in that sense, the society or RWA are our clients. I could not teach rainwater harvesting workshop in my own society. I mean, living here for 15 years. Forget and not bioenzyme to my own society, 15 years. So, have you seen any change in your engagement over the years? Are people coming really running to you, ki Soumi padhane do, or Soumi is still running to door, which I am doing as well. What is your experience over the years?
Yeah, it is. It is definitely. I mean, it is a very, very difficult or a challenging, thing to get a project. But as Dr. Menon was saying that it is the emphasis is more on numeracy and literacy. So, and for me, because the foundational years are a big chunk, so I have to now kind of, customize it in a way it becomes nature writing. So where I teach writing, uh, even now, and so what happens is when it comes to writing, then you have people coming, but I just didn't, because I didn't want to teach only writing. So I thought that why not make it nature writing. So like I'll tell you, I keep posting, see, because I don't come from, as it is, I come from a very different background also. I did 17 years, I was in clinical research, which is pharmaceutical. So this is and now it is not only a passion for me, it is a profession as well. So I have to constantly be at it. Now, so I keep posting my work, my thoughts, my whatever on social media, and from there, sometimes I get picked up. So I was called to one of the schools, one of the very good schools here. But what happens is there, you of course you are called for deforestation for a grade one uh, class, but but of course you have to take to them, the output has to be writing. So that is not an issue. I mean, you take it, you do it. But what happens to the external, I mean, I with a pinch of salt, you because you're an external, and as Dr. Menon said, that you can't allow anybody and everybody, there has to be a check. So what happens for people like us, we are asked to give the, share the complete lesson plan and techniques and everything. Now, I'll give you a very short example, a very small example. So in that deforestation thing, it was grade one. So, I brought in, and because it was writing as was one of the outcomes, I brought in the scanning pair, which is one noun and verb and er. So after a story, I translated Tagore's poetry for them, and we had a very beautiful time. We did it all under the tree, because okay, my Tagore's thing comes because I have studied in Shantiniketan. So that's why it comes from there. So when I did all of that, and then when I asked the children to come up with, the scanning pair for tree, and so I named it as there is a tree they call home, because for a grade one, you can't talk about deforestation and global warming and all of that. So we made it a very fun. As I said, it has to be that consciousness with what they receive. So, there were snail, bugs, and also they came up. So I said that come up with something. They all came up with beautiful rain hugger, a rain maker, soil hugger, and all of that. But then the whole lesson plan was taken by them. And when we presented in front of the parents were like really, really, very delighted to see. And the principal said that, she'll be our regular this resource person. But after that, I have never been called, only after a year when it dried out, the techniques they call. So similarly, I just like I recently had been to Azim Premji to talk about eco-pedagogy in maths, undergrad maths. So there also, it is very difficult. It is very easily integrated, because you bring in the, you talk about deforestation, carbon sequestration, and you use it in your mathematics. Even in middle school maths also, you use, y is equal to mx plus c. You talk about an endangered species and give them, that you give that c as 10 and tell them what will be the number after 10. There's a lot of things which can be done as an external to help to co-evolve or co-create a regenerative or but then as you said, it is difficult. But I see that some school, as I said, for once they call, they get it, and then they so this is what
No
has
time.
been
There's no
even
time.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I have a very simple question for you because we are talking about teaching tender minds and also youth. Swami, that question again goes to you, and if you have to answer it with yes or no, and maybe should preachers be practitioners as well because they students observe how do we conduct ourselves? What is your
Absolutely,
take on that?
absolutely, yes, there's
Okay,
just no
okay.
two.
All right. Yeah, because I often ask in the classroom, Ananya knows about it, and I'm going reaching to you, Ananya, with my last question, and we are going to wrap it up after that. You have been teaching at Water Studio, and you are actually the person who is interacting with the students because as senior teachers, we just go and we throw up and then we disappear. But for every nuance of every student, so many hundreds of them, you are interacting with them. What is your experience of, I will still call them tender minds. They are, of course, first year undergraduate, but dealing with them, and taking their questions apart from those admin questions, absent and all those stuff. What kind of questions they are usually asking about the subject matter?
Okay, I'll answer that in two ways. So what I've observed with a lot of the undergrad students, the problem is that a lot of them see water or any of the other studios they're taking in like environment and climate change or democracy and justice as external to what they are studying.
It's not their main study.
It is not their main study, and they see it as very much different from their programs that they're enrolled in, and they don't see how it will how it's an emerging theme. Although we try our best to communicate that these are challenges of the present and the future. Water will very much affect your life in the next 10 years. It will affect where you choose to buy a house. It will affect where you choose to bring up a family, where you choose to even with startups or people taking career paths which are very might be considered not connected to environmental studies or any of water resources, etc. So that is a struggle for us to communicate the importance of studying water, because it has not been, probably it has not been done with enough children at a primary education level. And I think by the time they've reached a higher secondary in school, a lot of the other courses that you need to quote unquote score well in take over. So I think that is one thing that we need to address at a national and state level, how to carry forward the environmental and water education they're receiving as young children into more higher standards, so that there's a continuation, or if that there's a lapse there, then the same thinking sets in. The other thing is, I think with kids, I've observed, my mother is also an educator. So when I interacted with her students as well, I've noticed that they're kind of uncorrupted by the world. They have fewer biases. It's, communicating empathy with younger kids is easier. We struggle with that in talking to undergrads sometimes, to see the other in the way that you choose to consume a natural resource like water, to be mindful of your own behavioral patterns of consumption. How do you make sure that you are being a good steward of water, given that there are so many other people who don't come from this same level of privilege as you? How do you carefully sort of reassess your own choices around water use and consumption? So I think that we still need to figure out a more impactful and powerful way to communicate that. Empathy, I think, is something we do try and address in class, but because they are undergrads, and I think they now see education as a means to a degree and a means to a career option, rather than education that will further you more holistically, that becomes very difficult.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And also the fact that Ahmedabad University is running it as a course, and it is a compulsory course students are taking. We often ask every student in the classroom that if this was not a compulsory course, would you take it? And of course, nobody is going to take that course. So that way, yes, but there are lots to talk. We are going to continue this conversation in kind of a sequel way. and take this conversation further. But for now, we have already over exceeded the time. But first of all, thank you to all the participants in Zoom here and on YouTube. I see quite a number of them there. And we thank you for your support and encouragement to make the water conversations really happen. We are slowly inching towards 300 sessions very soon in few weeks. So we have been really committed to make this water conversations, especially to make water everybody's business. So before I also close the session, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Soumi, Sanskriti, and Ananya for this wonderful interaction. And nothing better than today's session, very close to Teachers' Day. And we are planning already of 2 more sessions on these lines. And also thank you, Terry, School of Advanced Studies, to really initiate this whole series on education, where we are not only touching the tender minds today, but we are touching all kinds of us way water education is imparted in at this moment in the country. And mind you, there are very few water education at university level at this moment available, and I know many of them are also planning to close down because of lack of admissions in the water courses. So I hope if the tender minds are taught today, tomorrow there will be more demand for water education, because education itself is a business for now. And if there are people who are seeking water education, probably universities will be more motivated to run water education in the future. But right now, it doesn't look so promising. But if I look from my age, where I had no education on water formally, I feel we have moved quite a long way, and there is, of course, a long way to go further. We will continue at W4W or Water Conversations. This week, we have a very interesting session on our Friday Waters, which we call as Meet a Maestro. And on September 13th at 5 p.m. IST, which is 1:30 p.m. CET, we are discussing and meeting with Dr. Peter P. Molinga and talking about the performance, consumption, and production of water governance in India. So which on Fridays, we run our very light shows, I must say, with book reading, thesis club, water talkies, and water arts. And also we do Meet a Maestro. So Peter Molinga has been extremely crucial person to give us the idea of integrated water resource management, which is practiced in India. And he's been working in India for quite some time now. So we got hold of him and we have that presentation on this Friday. Next Wednesdays for Water, we are again running a sequel of our previous session, which we had in August. That is on September 18th. We have at 5 p.m. we have the Inland Water Navigation System Part 2, and we are going to take that up as a discussion. We will also continue our Monday Munching with Women for Water, and we will keep acknowledging and appreciating the role of women in the water sector. Do keep checking our social media accounts and website www.w4w.in for regular updates. But for now, thank you so much, all of you. And please take care of yourself. Keep yourself wet, not too wet, but see you soon. Thank you so much, all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.